Welcome to the Executive Coaching Podcast, where Executive Coach Alicia Cowan will discuss leadership topics and coaching solutions to tackle the most difficult problems that keep you from leading your team to success.
Hey leaders, it's Alicia Cowan. Welcome to episode number 51 of the Executive Coaching Podcast. Today, as I record this, we're heading into the week of Halloween, which is wild to me. I always say it, but I can't believe how fast this year is going. And so we're about to celebrate Halloween this week with the kids, and we're getting excited for really like the start of the holiday season. Last week, we celebrated homecoming. Our daughter was cheering in the homecoming game and then had her first homecoming dance in high school. She's a freshman. So we had a lot of that fun stuff going on. And this week we were in the thick of things too. My son had a swim meet. We absolutely killed it. And yeah, this week we're getting ready for Halloween. And last week I had a great week. I mentioned in the last podcast, I was headed to speak on site for a team meeting for a group of leaders that all happen to be women. And so I talked a lot about being a woman in the leadership role and just had a great time with them. Fabulous group of leaders. So shout out to them. They were so lovely and intelligent and fun and funny. And I just had a blast with them. So I want to give them a shout out and thank them for having me. But this week, really, what I want to talk about is, as we head into this wonderful yet hectic time of year for the holiday season, I want to talk about a little bit of ways that we can prepare ourselves. Because I think, again, this topic came up last week because we were talking through what it's like to be a woman in leadership role. And we know the holidays can be amazing. They can be a time of family getting together, of joy, celebration, but they also can bring them a fair share of stress and overwhelm, and especially for women in leadership roles or men in leadership roles that are really juggling a lot, that are juggling responsibilities at work and at home. And again, it came up because I was with this group of women leaders. And again, sometimes women can bear more of the mental load or the invisible burden of all of the things that happen. But I think all of us have experienced holiday stress at times in some time or another. And so that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about some strategies that, as a leader, you're thinking about so much and you have so much on your plate. So I want to just remind you of some strategies that you can employ to help yourself at home, to think about your team, and to think about the organization and how you can best lead during this time of year. And while some of these strategies might not be new or revolutionary, they are worth a good reminder, because we all tend to forget as we head into the holidays what it was like last year and how do we best prepare ourselves for what is to come. So that's what I want to help you with today. So first off, to kick things off, I think it's important to start off by just acknowledging the stress. So first things first, if you're feeling a little bit more Scrooge-like instead of like embracing and feeling the holiday spirit, I want you to know, again, you're not alone. I was with this group last week, and this was the sentiment. I think people felt like there was a lot going on. I think it's super normal to feel stretched thin. And sometimes when heading into the holidays, when you're already feeling stretched thin, the holidays just layer on that extra pieces of expectation at times. And sometimes it's outside expectations, sometimes it's our own expectations. And many leaders don't talk about this, but it's very real. And so we're going to get proactive about making this season a little bit more manageable, maybe even enjoyable for you. And again, this might not be for everybody. You might be the person that loves the holidays and is like, this is an amazing time of year, no stress to be had, and this is great. And if that's so, great. Absolutely thrilled for you. But if you are a senior leader and you feel that way, I think it's important to acknowledge and know that your team might not all feel the same way that you do. And so I think it's important to understand the perspective from their angle as well. So acknowledge that holiday stress can be very real. And here's the quote that really sparked this last week, this discussion. The quote that I stated was, "You can do anything, but you can't do everything." And we all took a pause on that. And it was interesting, a working executive mom that really paused and commented on this comment was just in relation to, she's like, that really struck home with me because I have so much going on. She, again, was executive within this organization. She recently had stepped up to a bigger leadership role. So she was involved and highly involved in a new role at work. She was involved at home. She was a wife and a mom to multiple children and young children. And she also was highly involved with her church and gave a lot of herself to her church, which she loved. But she realized that, like, maybe that was a lot. She had a very high expectation of herself and what she had going on. And so it really hit home with her to maybe pause and think about what she was expecting of herself. And so I love this line that you can do anything, but you can't do everything, because it's so true. As leaders, we typically feel this way. We often feel the need to be everything for everyone. And the reality is, there are only so many hours in the day, and you deserve to protect your time and to recharge as well. I think that's sometimes something that we leave off of the table. So we're going to talk about some realistic ways to set some boundaries and to prioritize. So here's some tips for a saner holiday season as a leader, again, of yourself, your team, and your organization. All right, so kicking off this list, number one, I want you to start with perhaps a reflection. Looking back on the past year, what were some of your wins and what were some of the lessons that you've learned? A friend and a fellow coach of mine recommended this book, The Gap in the Game by Dan Sullivan. The premise, and I haven't read through the entire book, but I've skimmed through, and the premise was basically that a lot of times high achievers look forward and are comparing themselves to a future goal or a future expectation and what they have for themselves, rather than looking back in terms of how far they've come and what they've done and achieved. So I've always been a big believer in giving gold stars and reflecting on the wins. So this book, it gives you that same perspective, right? How do you look back and compare about how far you've come? So before you dive into all the to-dos for the holiday season, maybe it's a good time to potentially look back. What went well this year? And what did you learn? And really celebrate the wins, the lessons, and how you're going to carry them forward. And reflecting can be super grounding and help you put the holiday hustle into perspective. Again, you're a senior leader, so you have a team. You could also do this with your team and have them do the same exercise. All right, so let's take a look back. So number two, then prioritize what's super important and truly important to you. You can ask, like, what really matters to me this holiday season? And figure out if it's your family, your friends, your rest. Maybe it is achieving and getting that big project over the finish line before the end of the calendar year. All good. But identify what those priorities are for you and use those as your guiding star before you decide where your time and energy should go. So you can set those and make sure that whatever reasons that you have for choosing what's important and prioritizing to you feels good and feels right. And again, this conscious decision-making ahead of time will help you before you just dive into the hustle and just go. It really helps to really set your intention. And again, as a senior leader, you can also do this with your team. We are in, the last few months and last quarter of the year. So really getting clean and clear about what is important before the year wraps. Super helpful to do with your team as well, to make sure everybody is on the same page. Okay. Number three. So then these really tie into that. Once you've prioritized what's important, you can really evaluate and start to delete from that list that you might have made, right? So you can say no and you can truly mean it. So anything that was not a priority, like maybe you made this huge list and you felt like there were some things that did not make the cut, you can let people know this is where I am not going to be spending my time. And this is a big one. We all have things that we feel super obligated to do, but don't necessarily want to do. And so this season, challenge yourself to say no to what may drain you. If you find yourself facing something that does not light you up or align with those priorities that you've set, it's okay to let it go. I'm giving you permission to just say no. Okay, number 4. Again, in line with that priority list, you can look at the long list and you can also decide if there are things that were not of the utmost highest priority. You can look and see, do I want to delegate them? We looked at what to delete. We also should look at what to outsource without the guilt. So you can think about that long list and you can start dividing the things into those categories: delegate, delete, or outsource. And here's the kicker. We got to do it without the guilt that's holding over us. You don't have to do it all for it to get done well. Okay. And again, I think a lot of times at the holidays, we really feel the need to put it on ourselves to get it all done and to make it perfect. I, over the years, have asked executives how they do it all and how they get it all done. And one year I did have a partner at a law firm tell me that she hires someone to do all of her holiday wrapping for her. She does not want to do it. And so she finds a way to outsource it and to have somebody else do it so that she doesn't have to. And so again, that may not be the answer. That's just one example for her. Some people I know love doing that. So, but I think being real with yourself is where I'm getting at here. Knowing what you like to do and what you don't like to do, and not being afraid to offboard it or offload it for yourself if it's something that somebody else can do. All right, number 5. You also want to be mindful of your team's well-being. Again, a lot of this was talking about like how to take care of yourself and self-care. And I think you have to do that as well as think about your team. And it's not just you that might be feeling the holiday stress and holiday crunch. So it's okay to check in with your team and ask about their well-being. You can encourage them to take breaks, to include using their time off, and to help them avoid burnout. And a little bit of empathy and flexibility can go a long way to creating a supportive environment and great culture, knowing that the holiday season can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So being just mindful and aware of that at this time of year can go a long way. All right. Number 6, plan time away and ensure that you have coverage for the team. So this also, again, applies to both you and your team. So one of the best gifts that you can give yourself and your team is this really solid, beautiful plan for time off around this time of year. A lot of times people just avoid it, and so they don't talk about it ahead of time, and it really sneaks up on people. And so I think starting now to deconflict that calendar is really important. Make people look ahead in the next 2 months and start to talk about what they're going to do and what their plans look like. You can also make sure, again, a lot of times people don't feel comfortable in taking the time off because they're afraid of how much work that they're going to come back to. So this is a great time to talk about it openly, to see if people can pick up work while someone's out for each other. That way, everybody's got each other's back. It might mean cross-training some people on some different work so that nobody really feels like I'm on my own in this island and I can't take the time off because there's nobody else to help while I'm away. And so by planning ahead, you're not only showing respect for your own time, but it's also respect for your team's time. And again, I think they'll appreciate this conscious effort of talking about openly about how to problem solve when people are away from work and what to do about it and what the plan is for when people are out of the office. It makes people feel more comfortable to take it, and it's being thoughtful and mindful of everyone within the workplace to have a plan ahead of time. All right, number 7. So once you get to the point where you are taking time off, set boundaries around communication and what that's going to look like with the time off. Okay, so with you and your team. So it's okay to plan ahead to make it clear, like how and when you're going to be available, how and when the team should be available, and what email auto response should be up, who should be the backup contact for anything urgent, and how we're going to stick to those boundaries. So time is valuable for everyone while they're away from work. And so it's essential to protect it. And by doing so, by setting the boundaries, you can also say like what needs to happen if there is an emergency and somebody needs some contact, and what to do if it's just an everyday email or an everyday occurrence, what people should or should not respond to. And so planning ahead, huge pro tip. Okay. Number 8. Another thing you can do is start to use the power of small habits or very small rituals to help just do some de-stressing or some self-care. So the holiday is full of routines and traditions and things that we've carried through for the years for our friends, family, etc. So why not create a couple of small rituals or habits that you can do for yourself that help you stay super centered during this holiday season? So whatever that looks like, if it's just a walk or some exercise or checking in with colleagues, mentors, etc. Maybe it's just having your morning coffee without checking your email or even touching your phone, whatever it looks like, just establishing what helps you with just these little timeouts, if you will, during the midst of the holiday chaos to help keep you centered, whatever that looks like. So consider that as we head through the holiday season. Then number 9, think ahead for the new year, but not in a way that will overwhelm you. So I think it's very natural as a senior leader and someone that's highly accomplished to start thinking about the new year and what you want to accomplish. So jot down some initial thoughts, some goals that you have for yourself, but avoid putting too much pressure on yourself at this point in time. You can use this time for just like some light brainstorming instead of this intense planning session. And then that way you can approach the new year feeling like ready to go, refreshed, rather than like already overburdened because of all the things that you have weighing on your mind to accomplish. All right, and that's number 9. So that's the list. And the final thought that I have for you is to, at this time of the year, think about how and what embracing just this joy for the season will look like for you. And it is not about perfection or others' expectations. And so as we head into this holiday season, remember, it's not about getting all the little details and every little moment perfect. It's truly about what makes you happy and what joy you can find and what matters to you. And that can include taking care of yourself. You can lean on your support network and you can be kind to yourself and your team this season. And so make some choices that are thoughtful and that serve you and your well-being this year. And as always, I appreciate you tuning in and listening. I hope you find some of these tips and tricks helpful to help you find a little bit more peace and balance this holiday season. It is how I am planning to go into the back half of the year. And as always, it's about trying to make incremental progress, not finding that place of ultimate perfection. And so if you need help with any of this, again, I've been talking to leaders just last week about helping to figure out what really matters, how to prioritize what matters, to delegate what doesn't, and to enjoy the moments that'll make this season special. As always, thank you for listening. And if you want to reach out, we'd be happy to hear from you. I am taking clients, and if you want to talk about what that could look like and how I could help you with leading yourself, with leading your team, or with leading within your organization, I would be happy to talk about how to help you really drive culture change by being the leader that you want to be. Reach out to me on my website. It's ElisiaKowenCoaching.com. It's ElisiaKeown coaching.com. And till next time, thanks for listening. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Executive Coaching Podcast with Alicia Cowan. If you're ready to have an executive coach who's ready to help you lead your team to success, then book an introductory call at aliciacowancoaching.com/call.